Hello and welcome to my week 7 summary of what I did for EEE 202 circuits class. This is the week 7 summary. In this week we basically went further in depth into capacitors. We learned about how they work, how they're charged and discharged. We also discussed the role that they play in many circuits, how they work best and when they are less useful. We also talked about how they are becoming more and more prevalent in cars as they charge more quickly than batteries. And we also completed more projects using the Arduino. We played around more with the kits. This is a picture here of our capacitor being connected to our power source, the battery, and we're using the lapro here to measure the differential in voltage as the capacitor is charged and then discharged, and the graph there displays the resultant graph. Basically, this week I learned how capacitors are built. They are generally composed of two capacitors separated by an electrolyte. We, as I showed in the previous picture, place voltage probes across both sides of the capacitor to determine the voltage differential across both sides. When they're connected, there shouldn't be a difference between the two sides, but as the power source is incorporated into the system, you're able to see the voltage differential as the capacitor goes from one state to another. We also went further in depth into just building other more simple gadgets and devices using the Arduino and our breadboard circuit. This is a picture from class as we went over more information on capacitors and how to mathematically determine capacitance in a circuit. And the biggest connection that I made this week to what I already know is I was really interested to find out how capacitors are being more and more used to power cars. They are supposedly more lightweight and they charge more quickly than the traditional battery, because the traditional battery can actually be charged technically. It's a chemical process. When you recharge a battery, you're essentially reversing a chemical process. You're not charging anything. The two sides aren't necessarily charged. But with a capacitor, you can charge a capacitor, and that makes it a quicker process, and it's more lightweight, and it's being more and more used in cars in the automotive industry, especially as we move more and more towards electric cars. So I think that that's a really interesting thing to learn. Overall, this week I spent about 8 hours on classwork between in class and work outside of class, and on my own researching and looking up topics. And my favorite neat resources, I liked Karam's article. It was titled Raspberry Pi Projects, Insanely Innovative, Incredibly Cool Creations, and it gave you some really cool and interesting ideas of things that you can build using the Raspberry Pi. And I also liked Angelica posted a TED Talk which gave a background on how the Raspberry Pi came to be, how it was created, and the initial intended uses, and so on and so forth. And I really enjoyed that one as well. Alright, and this has been my week 7 summary. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed.